Alright, I think we are ready to go now. We got this little vidges taken care of here. And here we go. So we're going to have the lovely Draco Dan providing the commentary here. I'm going to hop in here and we'll be ready in about 10-15 seconds. Let's go. Sonic Adventure DX race. Let's go.
All right, so seems like we're live now. Seems like we're about ready to begin. Welcome back, guys, to this marathon where we're now going to have Sonic Adventure DX, a race of Sonic story between Fizzbiscuit and G-Pro. So both our guys are just getting set up, ready to begin. So we'll be beginning quite shortly. This is a really fast and technical category if you've never seen it. It looks like G-Pro started, so there might be a bit of a desync between him and Fizzbiscuit. It's like, man, G-Pro's, man, jumping the gun. Well, I mean, G-Pro's given us a preview of what the runs are going to look like. There we go. All right, I think he's realized in the Discord. So, I think it'll restart here. I think. Man, this is why you've got to use SRL for. Got to use SRL for your races, so everyone knows when you're starting. And yeah, it's fine. He's just making sure the game looks fine, showing us how to get a 16 Chaos Zero. So. Spoiler for people who haven't seen the game that the first thing you do in the run is a boss fight against Chaos Zero. We'll get to see that again in a minute. So let's see if on the second attempt G-Pro can beat his 16.55 quite time for Chaos Zero. I'm sure he can do it though. Alright, now we should be beginning. Alright lads, show us how this is done. So, Fizzbiscuit is the first into the game, so I think it's Fizzbiscuit now taking a few seconds of lead from possible desync, but I mean, like I say, this is a very technical run and it's very possible for the lead to change over. G-Pro as well, I know, is a very strong player, one of the strongest players we've ever had for Sonic Story, so we'll see if Fizzbiscuit is able to maintain the lead. Fizzbiscuit coming out of Chaos Zero with a 16-2-1, that's pretty nice. Both runners just use a specific route of movement in Chaos to manipulate his position to get a fast time. So now we're coming into the first stage, Emerald Coast. There's a little skip that both runners are going to try to use here by getting out of bounds with a slope jump and just cutting off a little bit from the stage. G-Pro making back a little bit of the time already, and there's some pausing here to manage the camera between free and auto cam. This is honestly one of the main elements of running Sonic Story, that you have to do constant camera control. You can choose between the auto camera, which, you know, the game automatically assigns the camera angle, or you can choose free camera, and that is better in specific portions of the run. So yeah, whenever you see the runners setting the camera to specific spots, it's because it's either just generally easier to manage the camera, or in some spots it's borderline necessary for executing certain tricks. There are certain spots of the run where you really don't want a certain camera view set, such as the, I believe, free camera in the flame hallway in Lost World, where it basically points in the opposite direction and you cannot see where you're going, for instance. So both runners making their way very quickly through Emerald Coast. G-Pro taking the lead now. Like I say, just because someone starts with a few second lead, there is no guarantee that that lead is going to be maintained. I'm interested to see what respective routes the runners are going to use as well. I know that G-Pro is going to be using the TAS route, since it was originally unveiled in the TAS, which saves a little bit of time over doing what I expect to see Fizzbiscuit doing, which is the probably just the linear route. The two main routes before TAS route was being used are the linear route and the glitch route. So Fizzbiscuit is also opting to not get the crystal ring. So we've got quite a route deviation here. Fizzbiscuit is doing the linear route as opposed to G-Pro's TAS route, and he's not getting the crystal ring. Like, G-Pro spent a few seconds to get the crystal ring, but it saved some time later in the run from, wow, that was a fast Casinopolis. Glitching out of bounds and getting straight onto the coin pile with, like, barely even turning. So, yeah, it's not going to be really clear who's ahead until the routes sync back up. But long story short, G-Pro taking some seconds to get the crystal ring, it's going to make the Chaos 6 fight later a lot shorter, since the crystal ring reduces the charge time for the light attack, which we use in Chaos 6 since it takes it from a 4-hit fight to a 2-hit fight. Fizzbiscuit, they're just getting done with Egg Hornet as G-Pro is entering it, but again, Fizzbiscuit is not necessarily ahead since their routes are currently different. And with Egg Hornet, you simply wait for him to be vulnerable and then mash the A button as hard as you can to get, hopefully, a one-cycle fight. Like, if you attack him long enough, he just stays stunned on the ground. So both of our runners now are going to be approaching Windy Valley. Fizzbiscuit throwing the wind key there, but releasing it a little early so that it hangs in the air quite a bit away from the altar. That does waste a little bit of time, so G-Pro can cut a couple of seconds back if his key throw is a bit more optimal. We'll see how that goes. Fizzbiscuit just glitching through the wall there. You see a lot of that in SADX because of how tenuous the collision honestly is with everything, that if you approach a wall fast enough, chances are you can probably get through it. And there are certain spots where that is incredibly exploitable, as we just saw there, where Sonic goes into Gamma's portion of Windy Valley. So Fizzbiscuit opting not to use the trampoline skip here by doing a spin dash onto the speed pad so that he can get a very weird unlatch from the 5th launch pad. G-Pro's probably going to go for it here. And there has recently been a new skip discovered in Windy Valley Act 3 here, involving getting onto a sloped surface very early on in this act and maintaining skewed gravity to fall to the end of the stage, but it doesn't look like either of our runners are going for it. It is very difficult, and it's only, you know, slightly faster than the route that's already used, which is a very consistent route. So both our runners just going through the regular route in Windy Valley. Again, Fizzbiscuit looking like he's, you know, slightly ahead, but again, G-Pro has a relative time deficit currently from the route difference, which also means that once it looks like G-Pro's caught back up, that at some point he's going to then relatively fall behind again at a certain point, because he's going to need to do content that Fizzbiscuit's already done, and vice versa. So both just falling towards the Chaos Emerald here, rather than Gore Rings in SADX. Like in SA2, you either have Chaos Emeralds at the end of stages, or you have enemy capsules that you get at the end of the stage. So the hub movement in this game is like a very big part of executing this run. You have obviously the stages that Sonic goes through, but you also constantly have to be going through the hub world, and there are certain events that these guys have to trigger to progress the storyline rather. Like right now, you have to go down here and get the light shoes. This is like required to finish Sonic's story, but there are certain just flags that you have to trigger so that you can even progress through the game. Like certain events won't play until other events have been completed, which includes certain loading zones to get into stages not being active until certain things have been done. Like you need the light shoes in particular because in order to get into Red Mountain, you have to destroy the monkey enemy that's guarding the door. Otherwise, the loading zone for Red Mountain simply isn't there. So now Fizzbiscuit is going towards Casinopolis, which G-Pro did first with TAS route. He's struggling a little with this sloped spin dash jump to be able to get the button. There we go, he's in. So third try. So G-Pro is currently, you know, this stage ahead basically, although we saw with G-Pro that the stage is only a few seconds long ideally. And Fizzbiscuit making with the same skip that G-Pro did, using the coin pile. A sloped spin dash jump off it to just skip the stage entirely. Normally you're meant to collect 400 rings across the stage, which you can either do with the pinball mini games or going down into the sewers to collect them. Obviously that takes a lot of time, and like any runner at any skill level should be looking at doing the Casinopolis skip because it just saves such an amazing amount of time. So for now our runners are somewhat synced up. G Pro is in Ice Cap, and Fizzbiscuit is going to be progressing towards Ice Cap. A lot of Ice Cap is skipped. First of all, pretty much all of Act 2 is skipped by spin dashing and homing attacking through the door there. And yep, there's a small part of that wall that you can clip through there to skip past this snowboarding section. This saves a lot of time over doing this snowboard section regularly. And G-Pro is currently following a specific route while falling out of bounds to make sure he doesn't hit any kill planes. Like, there are multiple kill planes in this section, which you'll hit if you're not careful. And if you die in this section, you just get respawned on the snowboarding section. So then you have to either exit the stage or play through the snowboarding section. Like, it's not a particularly good time if you die here. Fizzbiscuit struggling a little to get up here to get through to Act 2 of Ice Cap. There we go. Took a couple of attempts, but he's through here. Let's see how he performs with this door skip. This door skip is quite a bit, yeah, it's quite a bit more precise than G-Pro made it look. So, okay, he's through second try. A bit of a difference between this game and SA2 is that you can exploit the restart function in this game to attempt certain level segments again. If you restart in SA2, regardless of the checkpoints you've gotten, it sends you back to the start of the stage. But in this game, it just sends you back to the last checkpoint. So for that spot in particular, it's really convenient. G-Pro struggling a little with his movement in the corridor due to all the wall vertexes. The game's just trying to send him up onto the walls. And we've got the Knuckles quote-unquote boss fight, aka Oh No, the split, where you just hit Knuckles 3 times. You do have to make sure to not hit him on the first available frame as soon as he comes out of iframes, because if you do that, then he actually doesn't take damage from the next hit. So although you want to hit him as fast as possible, you can't hit him literally as fast as possible, otherwise it does waste time. So now G-Pro coming into Chaos 4. This is a bit of a scary split for anyone who wants to get a particularly good time in this category due to, it's not RNG that's present in this fight, but you do have to try and manipulate the attacks that this guy uses. He's always going to follow certain patterns of using certain number of cycles of movement in the water, but after a certain number of movement cycles, he's going to do an attack. And the attack that he uses is basically dictated by a number of things like your position, if you're in the air, your distance from him, etc. And G-Pro is basically trying to manipulate either a splash attack or a shockwave attack. The splash attack is more optimal, but the shockwave attack is fine as well. What he doesn't want to see is the blue balls attack, we call it, where Chaos just splits up into a bunch of blue balls and tries to attack you with them. That wastes about 8 seconds every time it happens. And like I said, unless you manipulate this fight properly by being in the right spots at the right time, you can get blue balls on every single attack cycle, potentially. So you can stand to lose a lot of time on this fight. G-Pro, it looks like, I think that's, yeah, okay, that's Chaos's last attack cycle there, I believe, since G-Pro's going to currently be coming up on around about, okay, yeah, this is the last one, so now G-Pro's going to be getting around a 135, 136, it looks like. Oh, 134, nice. That's a very good Chaos 4. So, Fizzbiscuit kind of struggling to hit Chaos's hitbox there. It's a little weird. Ideally, you want to just stand above where he's going to surface and then just charge a spin dash so that he comes up into your hitbox. But it can be a little tricky to judge like exactly where he is or exactly where the hitbox is. He's looking like he's also on nice pace to not get any blue balls here, though. So now that he's on the last hit of Chaos, there's just I believe there's an extra attack cycle relative to the other attacks, so he just needs to be a little careful with his manipulation here and maintain it for a bit longer than previously. So yeah, being in the air, that's another splash attack, so looking like good pace here. So I think there's just going to be one more here. Yeah, there we go. So that's the last attack now. Fizzbiscuit is just waiting to be able to finish off Chaos 4. G-Pro, meanwhile, is in the first act of Sky Chase, and there's really nothing to do in this stage. It is an auto-scroller in the truest sense. Like, once you're in the stage, you can't speed this stage up in any way. The only thing you can do is avoid dying by generally sticking in a corner. But G-Pro is one of the rare players who prefers to actively play the stage and try and go for a high score while he's playing. Like I said, it doesn't do anything for the run or make it faster, but since this is at the same time either way, he just likes to do that for a laugh. Fizzbiscuit looks like he's just taking the minimalist approach, doing absolutely nothing, all hanging out in a corner, which is how most runners approach this split. So, for the next couple of minutes, there's honestly like really nothing going on. As far as the respective routes, so because G-Pro is on the task route and Fizzbiscuit is on the linear route, I think they're still going to be going to the same spots once they get out of here. I mean, you can choose to go to Speed Highway or Twinkle Park first, I believe. So I think the runners will have a choice of what their next stage is, but essentially they're going to need to do Speed Highway, Twinkle Park, and then Red Mountain before they get to Sky Chase Act 2. So there's going to be, I think, a little bit of potential for a bit more route deviation, but not too much. At this point, yeah, they're basically railroaded into being in the same general places at the same time. So G-Pro's coming up on the end of Sky Chase Act 1 now. Fizzbiscuit's about halfway through himself. Like, it's an opportunity to see a bit of the time difference that's developed between the two runners, but you know, Fizzbiscuit's not too far behind. It's just that Sky Chase is quite a long split, but there's, you know, obviously a lot of gameplay yet still to come in the run. There's still quite a few stages left. So G-Pro just going back to the casino area to trigger Amy appearing. This is the trigger for Twinkle Park being accessible. And okay, so he is going up to Twinkle Park. So G-Pro's going to be doing Twinkle Park and then Speed Highway. So with Twinkle Park, you first got this driving section. I personally find this really difficult to play. The different cars all have like slightly different mechanics, and the handling and speed, basically the stats of the car, are determined by your ring count as well. Like, oh, nice skip there by G-Pro. So basically, the more rings you have, the faster the car will go, and that was really scary with G-Pro getting over that gap there, since I mentioned about the ring count mattering for your stats. If you try and take that gap with 0 rings, you basically don't make it over. Like, I'm not entirely sure why they designed it like that, but you have to take that part of the stage, and if you take it with 0 rings, you just don't have enough speed to clear the gap. G-Pro unfortunately taking another hit from the enemy, so this is slowing him down a bit. It's not a major loss, but it's just irritating, and I don't really fully understand what even allows you to destroy the enemies here. So this is the point as well where Fizzbiscuit is opting to get the crystal ring, so he just chose not to get it after coming out of Emerald Coast, but he's now getting it. Some runners do still make the distinction of getting it and not getting it at all, but it just seems like he chose to get it at a different spot. So G-Pro's going to jump before coming down here so that he can maintain the ball form into the next act of Twinkle Park to do Coaster Skip by homing attacking out of the just auto-scroller trigger, and then a couple of really nicely placed slope jumps to skip the rest of Act 2 of Twinkle Park, so that was really nice. Fizzbiscuit's coming up on this track skip as well. This is... oh, that looks okay, yeah. He also managed to not take damage, so he is maintaining a higher ring count, so he's going to be saving a little bit of time over what G-Pro had for this section of Twinkle Circuit. G-Pro, meanwhile, is making his way over to Speed Highway, and it looks like he's taking the glitched entrance into it. You can choose to use the normal entrance with the employee key, or you can just clip through this wall and go into Knuckles' entrance of Speed Highway, but it still takes you into Sonic's stage. So Speed Highway is, as the name implies, it is very fast. And again, there's a lot of skips to be used here. First of all, okay, he just needs to clip the defense. That's fine. He used a very precisely placed spin dash hover there to augment his distance to make it across from that huge skyscraper. A spin dash hover is simply done by holding the A button before you release a spin dash, and that lets you use your hover frames, which is essentially what makes you rise in a jump whilst you're going horizontally with a spin dash. So it basically makes you appear to hover for longer. It basically just gives you a bit more distance with a spin dash. So Fizzbiscuit unfortunately didn't get the coaster skip, but it's not a huge time loss. It's, you know, relatively minor compared to some of the time losses that really can occur, and he's taking a different route as a consequence. Oh, he falls here. This is recoverable though, yeah. Okay, that's a nice recovery by Fizzbiscuit. You can take a spin dash jump off that slope, and if it's very precisely placed, you have to kind of handle your mid-air turning as well. Because if you turn too sharply in the air, you'll lose your upwards momentum, so he was kind of handling how to do the turn in mid-air. So that was quite nice. G-Pro, meanwhile, has finished Speed Highway, so he's going to be just on the way now to Red Mountain, taking another short clip to get back into the casino area to trigger the next cutscene. Like, you need to trigger that cutscene to be able to access Red Mountain. This is what I mean about triggering flags to keep progressing the game. So yeah, this cutscene with Amy means that Red Mountain's going to be active. So G-Pro's just going back over here and he's going to be picking up the Ancient Light. Like, he's already got the light shoes, now he's going to pick up the Ancient Light so that he can use the light attack. And this is what I mentioned is necessary to make Red Mountain accessible. That the loading zone for the stage isn't present until this enemy that G-Pro's targeting now is dead. So yeah, now that it's dead, he can go into Red Mountain. So G-Pro's like about a good stage ahead, and Fizzbiscuit, unfortunately, as I'm saying that, taking a death halfway through Speed Highway, so that death actually does hurt quite a bit. That's one of the more costly deaths that I would say a runner can take here, because that was quite close to the end of Act 1. He's got way more than enough distance to cross that gap, though. G-Pro, meanwhile, storming his way through Red Mountain. This is, like all the other stages, a lot of skips on display here. You can do another sloped spin-ash jump here to cross to these rocks, and then another one to cross straight to the end of where Act 1 is, cutting out a lot of platforming and ziplining and stuff. And after a short time going through Act 2 here, there's just going to be more sloped spin-ash jumps to get a lot of height. G-Pro mishandling a little bit the direction turn in midair. That's what I mentioned, that he turned a bit too sharply there, so he lost his upward momentum. But with second try, he gets up there and skips most of Act 2 as well. So yeah, he's just going to get the capsule down to Act 2, and G-Pro's going to be heading into Sky Chase Act 2 now. So on G-Pro's side, there's going to be, again, a couple of minutes of not too much. I mean, if you want to see him like play a auto-scroller shoot-'em-up section and actually try to get a high score, then by all means, but the actual Sonic gameplay is all currently going on Fizzbiscuit's side, where he's coming out of Speed Highway now. So yeah, again, currently about a full stage behind G-Pro. Like, he's got to get through Red Mountain. So let's see how Fizzbiscuit handles this section here. I'm assuming he's going to go for the same clip that G-Pro used to get back into the casino area. Yeah, because like he's clipping into the train station, but it's connected to the casino area. Like, it's the same area on the map, so getting into this area still triggers the same cutscene. Took him a few attempts to get that clip, but he got there eventually. Now, of course, he's also going to be taking the same route as G-Pro, where he's going to be going back through to the Mystic Ruins, getting the Ancient Light, and making his way through Red Mountain. Alright, so let's see if Fizzbiscuit can save any time over G-Pro's Red Mountain. Like, it's a tall order, because G-Pro was playing quite strong through that Red Mountain. He only really made one mistake with doing his sloped spin-ash jump in Act 2 to gain a ton of height. And different runners tend to use different strats there. I don't really see many runners aside from G-Pro going for the specific one that he went for off the rock surface. A lot of runners opt to use the platforms in the lava, which you can tilt to basically artificially create a slope, and a lot of runners tend to use that instead. So that's what I'm expecting to see Fizzbiscuit do when he gets to Act 2. Okay, just struggling a little bit here, but coming up on the main skip of Act 1. Nicely performed. So yeah, he's just onto Act 2, and let's see what variant he's going to be using here. Like, I'll be surprised if he goes for the same rock skip that G-Pro does. Yeah, okay, so he's using one of the platforms in the lava. So as you can see there, he stands on it for a bit, making it tilt further to create a steeper slope, and then he exploits that to gain a lot of height from a spin-dash jump. And then he's just onto the end, just like G-Pro was. So if you enjoyed watching Sky Chase Act 2 on G-Pro's end, then you're going to get to see it again on Fizzbiscuit's end just now, so yeah, cool. The fact that they are both on Sky Chase Act 2 at the same time, though, does suggest that the runners are no more than a couple of minutes apart. At this point, though, like, it is very difficult for Fizzbiscuit to make up the time here if he does want to win the race. There's, as far as the remaining stages go, there is Skydeck, Lost World, and Final Egg, and there's a couple of boss fights in between, and of course a bit of a hub movement. The hub strats on the egg carrier here that G-Pro's coming up to are quite difficult, but G-Pro is relatively consistent at performing these. There's just some very dumb wall clipping and such that you can do in egg carrier, so we're gonna have to see how it goes. Oh, G-Pro actually didn't get the one cycle on the cannon here. I don't know if he just wasn't aiming towards the weak spot the whole time, but that's really strange that he didn't get the one cycle there. So that's a few seconds that Fizzbiscuit can definitely claw back just by aiming in the right spot and continuing to press the fire button. That was really strange. Either way, though, it's not a huge loss for G Pro as he gets onto the egg carrier now, and he's going to have like a couple of seconds of movement before triggering another cutscene where the egg carrier is going to transform. And this is an annoying cutscene once this starts because you can actually pause during this cutscene for whatever reason. It's a cutscene that just uses game assets rather than being an actual cutscene. But you can just pause there and obviously lose time from having done so. And if you get to this trigger with Skydeck and enter it too quickly, you can actually, I believe, softlock the game. So although you want to get over there quickly, you don't want to get over there too quickly. So now that G-Pro's in Skydeck, let's see how this is. This is, in my opinion, one of the most technical Sonic stages. There is just a lot going on in Skydeck with a lot of very weird mechanics involving the ladders and whatnot. But G-Pro is very solid at this stage. He's honestly very solid at all of the Sonic stages, but he's particularly a specialist in this stage, I believe. And I think Lost World is his favorite Sonic stage, so we're going to be seeing that one after Skydeck and the following boss, Chaos 6. Well, there's the Gamma mini-boss as well, but it's kind of the same deal as Knuckles, where you just deal a couple of quick hits and the fight is basically immediately over. Oh, that was really close for G-Pro, being like right on the edge of the ceiling structure there. I honestly thought that he'd missed that, but he knew exactly how to recover that. That was quite nice. So G-Pro taking a weird route in Act 2 here, where you go along the left side on this slope, and it gives you a lot of speed augmented by the speed pads, and still progressing in a straight line. And as long as you get to that cannon super quickly, you can destroy that huge cannon in the center before it moves off, which does stand to save a lot of time if you manage to get that quickly. And G-Pro just... Okay, this is... what's he doing here? This is not how I've seen him perform this before. Oh man, I think he has to go for the button now. If you make it over to the capsule quick enough and hit the button before the stage fully tilts, you can end the stage early without needing to press the button and reset the gravity. But at the same time, that spot is a potential softlock risk if you land in the incorrect spot, since the stage doesn't end until Sonic is fully grounded, and if Sonic is in the wrong spot, the game just considers him to be infinitely falling, and since you lose control of Sonic, you can't move him, and you're just completely softlocked at that point. So maybe that's just what he was trying to avoid. So here we have Gamma, where, again, just like Knuckles, it's just 3 quick ones and the fight is over. And we're going to have just a little bit of hub movement here, triggering one more cutscene. And yeah, so G-Pro's going here for the Captain's Quarters clip. First try, wow, that is really precise. That's a really difficult skip to get, so that's really impressive, honestly, on G-Pro's end. Like, that's one of the most difficult clips in Sonic Story to perform, I would say. So now that he's done that, he's just heading towards Chaos 6, and as I mentioned before, this... What the hell is he doing? Alright. Alright, we're there in the end. So this boss is pretty much the reason that I mentioned the runners picked up the crystal ring earlier in the game. You can use the light attack to target Chaos 6, which deals double damage, so he just has to make sure to not hit him with the particles. Okay, so you can see that it does half of Chaos's life bar there, and if you have the crystal ring, then the light dash takes half the amount of time to charge. And this makes the fight a little safer as well, since the light particles that go into Sonic, those can contact Chaos and deal damage themselves, so the less time those are flying around, the less chance there is for one of them to randomly contact Chaos. So, a very quick boss from G-Pro, and he's now moving on to Lost World. I sound like a broken record at this point, but again, another really technical stage with a lot going on. There's a lot of slopes and a lot of like narrow corridors here. This flame corridor is very RNG heavy, but yeah, G-Pro just moderating his movement a little bit there to make sure he didn't hit any flames and get slowed down. And so he's going to try and... There we go. A very nice little piece of wonky collision with the snake there, where because it has multiple vertexes, if you get stuck on the side of it in the right way, the game basically slopes you very sharply upward, which you can use to get a very pronounced slope jump there. So G-Pro now making his way through the dark room. Oh, he got caught on the pillar there, and that stopped his momentum. That's really uncommon. I don't think I've ever seen him do that by accident. But, you know, accidents can always happen every so often. So I think he's just going to be a bit more careful to avoid this time. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, he just went slightly in the wrong spot and went straight into the pillar, which unfortunately stopped his momentum. And then he just immediately goes into Waterfall Skip, which is a relatively difficult skip that only saves a couple of seconds in Lost World there, where by taking a spin dash jump out of bounds in a very particular way, you can again essentially avoid a bunch more kill planes and just save a couple of seconds overtaking the Waterfall auto-scroller. So now with this room, he's just going to trigger this switch twice to make this route possible. Doesn't have quite enough. Yeah, he has to take 2 attempts there to get onto this side panel there for another spin dash jump to get across the puzzle room and end the stage immediately. Yeah, this is quite the run. So G-Pro's finishing up Lost World, and Fizzbiscuit meanwhile has just finished the same little Captain's Cabin part in the Egg Carrier, so he's coming up to Chaos 6. So Fizzbiscuit's basically going to be getting the same fight here, where he's just going to be using the light attack to... Wow, G-Pro, you good there, man? Yeah, he's just going to be getting a 2-cycle fight here on Chaos, hopefully. G-Pro solving a short puzzle there before entering Final Egg. It's quote-unquote puzzle. The solution's the same every time, and you just do 2, 3, 4, 5, or 5, 4, 3, 2. It always solves the puzzle. So this is Sonic's final stage, Final Egg, appropriately named. And there's 3 acts here. Act 1 is relatively straightforward and relatively non-broken, where you just move through the stage quickly. But Act 2 and Act 3 each have very significant skips, where to start Act 2, you simply go back where you came from here, and you can just fall straight, basically, to the end of Act 2, where this elevator is. And then for Act 3, you can once again just get on top of the elevator and get out of bounds. So taking a death there, but that death happens very frequently, and it does still put you at the start of Act 3, so it's not a big deal if that death occurs at the start of Final Egg Act 3. And, oh, he's not using the top of the elevator to get more height to avoid that kill plane, so that was living really dangerously. But falling just straight towards the end of Final Egg... Yeah, what is G-Pro doing? Is he... I think he's just having fun here at this point. Maybe he just, like, knows he's that far ahead, but... Come on, G-Pro, man, mind on the task. You've still got Egg Viper, so, like, that's the last stage done, but he still has to do the final boss before the run is over. This is Egg Viper. This is largely an auto-scroller boss where there's just a lot of long cycles, and you get to deal damage to him at the end of each cycle. The fight collectively takes over, like, 2 minutes. Like, it's going to be... A good Egg Viper is, like, around about 2 minutes and 20 seconds, but... If you're like not paying attention or make a specific type of mistake at any point, you can basically die at any stage in this fight, so you really do need to pay attention to what you're doing in this fight, even though I say it's mostly an auto-scroller, since you really don't want to take a death at the end of this fight and lose over 2 minutes from making a single mistake. In particular, one thing that can happen is that on the last hit, there's like a lot of lag that happens and a lot of your inputs get dropped, so if you go for him while he's out of bounds, you can potentially be unable to recover. And oh, Fizzbiscuit taking an unfortunate death on the in that section of Lost World here, where I think he managed to somehow avoid the checkpoints at the top of the rolling rock section there as well. And that section is a good example of what I mean about using the appropriate camera at the right time, because I think he struggled with that section because he had the wrong camera set. So that's a good example of why you really want to be using the correct camera mode for specific spots. So G-Pro, meanwhile, is halfway through Egg Viper. Like, at this pace, it's looking like G-Pro is going to be coming out with a low 31 by my estimate. Which is, for a marathon run, especially, it's a perfectly respectable time. So just a couple more hits for Egg Viper here, where he's using the pinwheels that extend to use them as platforms to get up to him. Normally he just shoots them out towards you, but if you just get on them while they're out of bounds, you can still just do them like that. That's the hit that I'm fully expecting him to not do on the final hit. So this is the second last hit, and Eggman's just going to appear right again. But I'm fully expecting him to take this one safe and just wait for it to come towards him. Yeah, he's not taking an unnecessary risk here. Like, you can potentially do the last hit like a second faster, but it's not worth the risk, since you're going to lose over 2 minutes if you mess that up. So time is about to come up on G-Pro. It's when the timer stops here and when the explosion happens after Egg Viper falls into the pit. And time for G-Pro. So that looked on my end like a 31-20. That's a super respectable run. Like, that's a really good run. So now we're just left with Fizzbiscuit, also on his final stage, Final Egg. So he's just going to have this and his own Egg Viper, and then that's going to be Fizzbiscuit away home as well. So doing the same spin dash jumps to skip through lots of this conveyor section like G-Pro did. And yeah, these rotating sections can be a little awkward. It's very possible to end up getting clipped out and just die there as well, so a very awkward section overall. Fizzbiscuit getting the Act 2 skip and making his way up to the elevator to trigger Act 3. Okay, so Fizzbiscuit actually got something that G-Pro failed there, but he can potentially be stuck here. Okay, he's not. So what Fizzbiscuit did there was to jump down the pit, and when you transition into Act 3, the game still remembers that you're in ball form. You can then use the action button to unroll from ball form, which temporarily hangs you in the air. So if you do that quick enough, you can basically do it while you're inside the elevator, so you don't fall down into the pit. But if you do it slightly too late, you'll do it basically while you're in the floor of the elevator, and you'll be embedded, and you can't do anything. So you still need to take a restart to reset Sonic's position. But thankfully that didn't happen, so he saves a little bit of time over G-Pro's final leg, it looks like. And he's coming into his own Egg Viper now. So as I say, now it's just pay close attention for 2 minutes, don't make any silly mistakes. He's taking a very risk-free hit one there, so if he's taking no risk to get a quick hit one like that, it makes me wonder if he's going to be taking the other hits as quick as possible, since for the other hits, Eggman doesn't just hang around like that, he goes into the background, so if you mistime that, then you're basically going to miss the hit guaranteed. Yeah, he's going for it here. He knows the timing for doing this. That's fine. And then just after the camera inverts like that, you've just got to move off to the side sufficiently to get it to reset to start the next cycle. So he's just doing the same thing for this next hit. That looked like it was going to be a little late, but it was still fine. So, nice one. Alright, so Fizzbiscuit is currently just 3 hits away on this fight. Just needs to do 3 of the pinwheel hits. 2 of them are the free ones, which you can just stand on the pinwheel while they're out of bounds. And then for the last hit, just like G-Pro, I'm assuming he's not going to be taking any risks, and he's going to wait for it to come in bounds so that there's not risking any input drops, preventing him from recovering at the end.
He's also not going to spin around in circles to piss off Draco.
Yeah, that didn't piss me off. That was good. Like I took that as like a flex. That was good.
That was a flex. That was definitely a flex.
Yeah, congrats on the win, man. That was a really nice round.
Yeah. So Fizz is about to beat Egg Viper, right?
Yep, he's finishing up now. He just got the last hit, so he just needs to not die on Egg Viper's last assault. And as I mentioned with your side, time is when the in-game time stops when he falls into the pit, which is time now.
That's not a bad run.
No, not at all. Like 31 and a 35. Like the divide kind of grew and grew throughout the run, but that's kind of just the nature of this run, especially with how movement heavy it is and with how many advanced tricks there are. But yeah, both of you put on a very respectable show. Thanks. You got anything to say about your run?
Well, I was making a couple of mistakes because my controller's not very good. But when I was spinning around and stuff, that was me just messing around.
Yeah, blame the controller for the mistakes. That's what everyone does.
Yes, I was spinning around because of the controller, definitely.
Exactly. Yeah, I liked that a lot, so yeah, again, thank you very much. Thanks to Fizzbiscuit as well. I don't know if he's going to make an appearance in here, but if he's not, then yeah, thank you very much again to him and to G-Pro as well. Thanks, of course, to Big John for putting this event on. And we're going to have a lot of good runs still coming up, so don't you guys go anywhere.
Yeah. Sorry that I kind of made the mistake of streaming to my ult immediately.
It happens.
I was like, oh no, no!
And then you started early as well. Like, wow, what are you doing, man?
John said it was tests. It was tests. Definitely. 100%. I wasn't confused. Definitely not.
Either way, yeah, I think that's it for us then. So I'm going to be taking my leave. Thanks very much for letting me provide commentary. This was really fun to commentate over. and I'm just going to let them start getting set up for the next run. So see you guys later.
I just want to end on one note.
Happiness is always so much more enjoyable when it's based on pingers.
I agree. All right. All right. See you guys later.
Thanks for having me.
Alrighty, you all. What's up? We are back. We are back here, and we are. What a great race that was! A Sonic Adventure. I'm about to say 2. We got enough of those. Sonic Adventure Battle. Is that even a game? Sonic Adventure 1 Battle? Whatever. It was a battle between the two of them. But nevertheless, you all, it is almost time for us to get ready for our next game. And of course, if you haven't been here, haven't seen this game, we got a game that is new as of last year, if you want to call that. If you're a big fan of Mario Brothers 2 US, you know, good old Mario, Toad, Luigi, floating Peach all over the place. Well, we have a new game out where not only is it a ROM hack with kind of a mild to slightly light Kaizo influence, but we have the developer of the game playing it. So, total judgment time, right? If the guy made the game, he better play it well, right? He will be judged. So we got Glitch Cat 7 coming up next with Mario Bros. 2 Return to Subcon. If you haven't seen this before, I'm going to tell you what, you need to watch it. I've played it several times. It is a fantastic game, and that's coming up next right here on Nothing But Mario and Sonic. By the way, what's up, everybody? If you don't know what's going on, this is a charity fundraiser. This is day 2. This event features nothing but Sonic speedruns and Mario speedruns. Or is it Mario speedruns and Sonic speedruns? You can check out the entire lineup by typing exclamation schedule. You can donate to the cause. Again, we have a big old overall donation goal of $10,000. That's my goal for this year. If we hit that, we can add another bonus game to the event. And of course, as you donate, we can unlock or put it towards various incentives. We already met 2 of those incentives, but we still have a bid war for Sonic CD. Do you want to hear the Japanese track or the US track? We also have Save or Kill the Animals for Sonic Adventure 2 Battle later on this evening as well. Do we leave them behind or do we rescue them? Your donations can help affect that goal. Alrighty. Who knows, maybe we'll have a bonus incentive for Samari and Sonic the Hedgehog 1 for the Game Boy Advance. Another high quality title, right? Yeah, that's a big old monka. That's right there. All right, so we're gonna get ready and get set up for Glitch Cat's run coming up next. Again, we did have a few donations that came in. A quads with 332. Go fast. $20 from JDF, who says good luck with the runs, and $20 as well from Final Flame, who will be running Sonic the Hedgehog 2 Game Gear Best Ending. That incentive was met. That's later on today. Who said we can't let the CD US soundtrack lead this race. If it's a marathon run without the Japanese soundtrack, it just isn't right. So obviously he wants the US soundtrack, right? Alright, y'all, sit back, relax, and we're going to be back in just a few moments here with Return to Subcon.